this is reporting from the beginning. We're setting up our folders, cloning, and everything like that. So the resources for today are some of the articles that we have in our reports knowledge base. I am still working on updating and including information for the new reporter. We still have our legacy information here, but I'm still working on including those, which is why I have also included information from the Pines Consortium down in Georgia, as well as NC Cardinals information on reports. They are extremely knowledgeable about it, especially Pines. I mean, they've been doing it since the beginning. But this will give you a lot of good information too, and which is what I will also be building our local documentation from. So today, first, we are going to look at navigation. Where do we go to access this report module? And then we're going to look at setting up our folders because we can't run reports without our folders. Then we will look at searching for templates, running your first report, viewing your report output, editing reports, cloning a template. We're not going to edit the templates. We're just going to clone today. We're going to talk about recurring reports, navigating shared templates, which actually sounds a little misleading when I think about the slide that I actually put in there. Okay, so accessing the new reports module. There are a couple places that we can access this. On the main page, last page, homepage, whatever you want to call it, under the administration column, we have the reports, which takes us to the new reporter, what we are covering today, and reports legacy, which is the old reporter interface. It is still usable though. So I wanted to point that out because they really work the same. One is just newer and more closely aligns with the updated database and tables within Evergreen now, which is that new one. Next, in the administration top navigation menu, we have a link to the new reporter, a link to the reports legacy, which is the old reporter. And then we also have a third report option, which is simple reports. It still works. It is very simple, quick way to build without the bells and whistles. But when you access the new reporter, this is all that pops up when you access it for the first time, or actually when you access it at all. You have here on the left side, we have this browse tab and search tab and some information below that. So the reports, the browse tab, this is where our templates, reports and outputs are stored. So this is where we can store that information. We can also see this below that are the shared folders. So these are the templates that are not owned by you, but are shared by maybe fellow colleagues at your library, other library systems, or us at the consortium level. The search button in the search tab, you can search all available templates, whether it's the ones that are in your folders or in all of the shared folders. You can focus on a specific folder separated by owning user, which is what you would look like if you were in the browse button. So I'm going to go into here. I'm using our trainer and I asked the team to yell out a library and the first one that popped up was Flora. So we are using Flora for our examples today. So thank you, Flora, for your data information. So we have this reports button here to access and then administration reports. This is just what the module looks like when you first load. We have the folders. We can easily click between the browse and search and see all of these folders, which include my shared folders as well as the other accounts that have shared folders. So we can't use the reporter until we have set up our folders. So what do our folders do? So first, to build them, we have to click on the folder name and then click on this add top level folder name folder for each of these folders. So for our templates folder, this is where our templates are stored. The reports, so once you've run a report or once you have selected a template, filled out filters, and you're running a report based on that template, a copy of that report lives in this folder that you will create for 30 days, unless it's recurring, then it will automatically delete. Again, unless it's recurring. The outputs folder, this is where your output results are located for 30 days. This is what it will look like when you click on each folder for the first time. When we click on it, it's going to bring up that Add Top Level Template Folder button. You can be as general or as organized with your folders. And each folder type can have many folders within it. So if you're like me, you might have like 5 or 6 different folders for each, maybe module or category. In Evergreen, you might just have one for templates, depending on how many you have or store in there. It's completely up to you. These templates are stored at the user level. And then just rinse and repeat. So we're going to make a top level folder for each of these folders. So I'm going to go in here and click templates. It's asking me to create my top level template folder. I'm going to click on that. For this, I'm going to circulation, but let's annual statistics. Statistics. Nope. But we put in our template folder name here. I'm going to click confirm. And now we do it for each of them. If you do make multiple folders, like say for your templates, they recommend you match those folders in the reports and outputs just for organization purposes. It might be easier to find those reports and outputs. So I'm just going to confirm because it is going to remember the last thing I entered. Go to outputs at top level and confirm. Now notice that once we have created at least our top level folder, these little carrots appear. And when we click on them, our folders are now visible within each category of our folder. So annual statistics for templates, reports, and outputs. When we click on one of those before we do anything, it's going to take us to our empty folder because we don't have any templates. This is where we can add that subfolder. So maybe annual statistics, maybe you create a subfolder for circulation. So you can do that, click confirm. And then when you come back in here, we have another caret. And now we'll click that, there is our subfolder. We can also delete our folder from here, rename it. And this is where we start to share our folder as well. So searching for templates, you can browse all of the templates that have been shared at the consortium level and those that have been shared in your library system or branch. We can use that search tab to search for a string. As soon as you start entering text in the field, the reporter is going to start searching that template database. Usually I start typing and then I wait for it to load and then I finish and then I press enter and then it will run that search again. So for this example, we were looking for weeding. So I'm just going to start typing it in. Now I only have 10 rows viewing here, but let's see if I can just see what happens when I press 100 rows. So I apologize for the scrolling. There are 40 templates that list the term weeding either in the title or the description or part of that word. Okay. You can choose to search for a term specifically in the title field or the description field or everywhere or all of the fields. You can also choose to search a specific shared username or folder. So let's just type in weeding. And then let's see if there's anything in our EGIN-admin reports. I'm going to select that, see if I can. I have to go in. So as I click through these, it looks like it's looking for that string that you entered. And as I go through these folders, it's searching and it's saying there is nothing to display, which makes sense because those folders don't have a weeding template in them yet. So for now, let's just go with that keyword search. While a much broader list of results may appear, this may be one of the fastest ways to find a template. Now let's look at the grid columns that are available to us in the templates area. So I'm gonna do that. I want to make sure I undo these. Actually, let's probably just refresh to make sure I uncheck those folders. Okay. We've had a lot of, it's end of year. Everyone's been trying to get a cost of the items that have been added throughout the year, as well as items deleted. So I'm going to focus on those templates for today. So the the columns that are available to us for our templates, the template ID, each template in Evergreen has an ID. This is much like everywhere else in Evergreen. We have user IDs, item IDs. These are useful to us when searching for a template in the database for troubleshooting. It isn't really needed for day-to-day. So you could probably just hide that column until maybe you submit a help desk ticket about reports or something, and then you can just provide that template ID for us. The folder, this is the folder which the template is located. You might see duplicate folder names, but unless they are owned by the same person, they are probably not the same folder. The name, this is the name of the template. It might be helpful to combine with the description in case the name doesn't relay what the template is for, though it should, because it's a lot easier to figure out if that template is going to help you with what you are looking for. The descriptions sometimes provide a list of display columns and filters used for that template. Sometimes it'll also tell you what the report is going to show. Like for this example, list of items by added between X dates. So your filter will have some type of between operator filter to show that list of items to filter out anything other than those. The documentation, you can actually link information about a specific template, maybe from a website or a knowledge base article, to the template itself. It's not really used in Evergreen, Indiana right now, but I'm very intrigued by it. So I'd like to change some of that on some of our, especially like with annual report stuff. I would love to be able to have something available in our knowledge base and then link them from here. So maybe more instructions on how the template is built and what it will show you, maybe some caveats and things like that. Well, the date created, I skipped. So that's just when the template was created or cloned. It could have had an original date of like 2021, and Keith was the one that created it from scratch, or he cloned it from another template, and it's telling us that that template has a create date of that. The owner, it's the owner of the folder the template is housed in. It doesn't matter if they created the original or cloned it into their folder. Version, so this is something maybe new. I don't recall. Actually, no, we do recall. So in the legacy reporter, let's show that to you just really quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. So I don't have any, let's go into here. So in the legacy reporter, we had this UI column that said like web staff Zool or XUL to tell us the version of the template. Like, is it Zool? So was it created during one of our much older versions of Evergreen that we used, or was it web staff? So was it created after we launched, I think 3.0, which was when the web client was started? Go back in here. But in the new version, in the new reporter, instead of saying that Zool or web client, Evergreen is now using numbers. So when you see a 4 and below, those are likely Zool. So here we have this version 4 created in 2008. So versions 4 and below are the Zool based and very likely will not work with the new reporter, at least as it is. Now, if you clone it and make some changes, then it might work, but for the most part, they will probably not work the way they should. Anything above, so I think we're up to the version 7 now, so 5 and up might work with the new reporter. It might need a little tweaking though. So how do you pick the right one? Like you're doing a search, you just like items added. So how do you pick one out of all of these? Look at the date created. You're less likely to run into issues with templates created after, I would say, 2021-ish. For versions, use anything. I have a 4 and up, but it needs to be 5 and up here. So versions 5 and up, I would recommend looking at those. And anything with a 4 or below, maybe not mess with those. There might be something newer. Or if you're more comfortable with reports and like cloning and editing them, you could update the report to match a newer version. Look at the name. Does the name include the information you need? So does this items added to collection between dates with price? Does that convey like, yes, this might work with what I need to show all of the items that I added in 2025. And then you want to look at the description. So hopefully the description will have enough for you to pick the best one in the list. So this one, for example, shows us what columns will display in your output, then filters. So like creation date, time, owning library is deleted, etc. So running your first report, you have found a template that might work for your needs. So let's run it. And I'm going to go in here first. As a note, obviously we have thousands of templates in the reports module. A lot of them are older, probably versions 4 and older. Our goal, which we'll talk more in depth about later, is to use this EGIN admin reports account shared folder to share the like new report templates or just anything that we know works, and mostly thanks to Kristen, who is our reports queen. But we have it set here. Not all of them have anything. They might not have something yet, but I've been focusing on also including the legacy templates for the legacy reporter. So if staff still are not too comfortable with the new reporter, there are still reports that we are going to put in this legacy so they can access those. And they have been tested to run on the legacy reporter. And then we also have this new reporter here. So this is where we are entering the templates that we know work with the new reporter. So for this, I'm just going to go to collection data and we are going to go with this one for our live example. So you found the template that might work for your needs. So we are going to run it. To start a new report, we are going to select the template from our list, whether it's in our results or from a folder that we have access directly. We can right click or go to actions and click new report, or we can just double click on the template row itself. After clicking run a report, it's going to take us to the new report page. This is just an image of what that items added to collection template is set up for. So the first thing we want to do is replace the template name with your own report name, and you can add an optional description. So for this example, I just said items added to Flora in 2025. I did not add a report description. It's optional. I think descriptions are more helpful on the template level, but if you feel like you need more information, so when you go back to it, obviously, please feel free to do that. To the right of that is the original template name and description. If you see, it's grayed out, so it is not clickable, but it is there, so you can remember what template you selected. You are first loaded into the filters tab, but if you want to check the columns, you can click on that first tab to show what is going to display, especially if the description doesn't show exactly what is going to be visible in your output. This might be helpful. So when you click on that, you can't edit them, but you can see what the name of the column is going to be, the header. And then below that is helpful information. This is the source. I'm gonna butcher this and I'll have to ask Kristen what she calls it. Maybe the table. So we have our source here, the item, and then we move in to, we're going into the call number, and then we selected the call number label to view as our display. So we did that for each of these, the different kind. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat and I will get to them as soon as I see them, or I might open up the mic at the end and allow you to talk if you want to chat that way. So back to the filters. Now we need to define our filters. Obviously, we can't add new filters or edit the operator or transform how these filters work on this template because we are just running the template as is. So the filters will vary based on that template you have selected. So you'll want to fill out those values based on what you are looking for. So in this example, we are wanting a full year's worth of information of items created in 2025. So we have this example, a date that we enter. So it's going to be the format of year, month, day. And this filter is set to between. So that means that we are going to select the earliest date in the first field and then the most recent date in the last. So of course, since we're looking for the whole year, we go from January 1st to December 31st. Is deleted or similar like is active are very common filters that you will see in a lot of templates because a lot of times you don't want to see the information about deleted items. So for in this example, because we are just showing items added within this year, we don't want to see anything that has been deleted. So that filter has already been chosen for us as false. And then another common one that you might see is the organizational unit ID. So we are looking for a specific library's collection of those items added in 2025. So you can start entering your name. It is in your full name, so it's not going to recognize your short names. So if you just start typing in like Edinburgh or Flora or Morrison Reese, it's going to pop up in the list. So I'm going to get that started. Well, since we are doing no, we'll stick with it. Okay, so items added. I'm just going to double click on that. And I'm going to say items added in 2025 at Laura Monroe. Description. We can just leave that blank. So we have our filter dates here. This relative time value, this is going to be used for recurring reports, and we will talk about that in a little bit. So I'm going to type in 22601-01, and you can also use this little calendar button. And since it's not too far, we can just do that. And there we are. Organizational unit ID. I'm just going to start typing in Flora, and we will just select the branch level here. And I'm going to click next. All right. So after we have entered our filters, we go into the layout and scheduling tab. This is where we're going to tell the module how we want our output formatted, where we want the report and output to be saved, and if we want to run it now or schedule it for later. This is also where we will complete our setup for a recurring report. So first on the left, we can choose our formats. There are several formats to choose from. It just depends on the type of data you are looking for. My default is the HTML output, which means that it's just going to pop up in a window or a tab to view your information, or a CSV, so I can just download it and manipulate it in Excel. To the right of that is we need to select where our report is going to be saved and then our output. So you'll want to select that folder from this list. Above that is the pivot label column where you can pivot your data before accessing like the Excel. However, the pivoting within the new reporter is not sticking. So if you need to run data that you need to pivot right now, you will need to use the pivoting function in Excel to do that. You have the ability to automatically upload information from your output to a record bucket. This only works if your report has a bib record display column or where it will show the database ID. And then that list will be imported directly into a record bucket, whether it's one that already exists or you are creating a new one. If you are putting it in an existing record, you will need to put that record bucket ID, which is supplied as soon as you create a record bucket. Sometimes if you forget something, like maybe you forget to add an option from like an in-list filter, or you forget to select your report and output folders, it's going to tell you if you have forgotten that. Above that is where you will choose to run the report now or schedule the report for later. If it's going to be a huge report, like if you have a very large collection in your library and you want to run a full report of that, you might want to schedule it to run in the like early morning hours where it's not affecting peak open time for libraries, because it is possible that if the report is big enough, it will slow down or even break the reporter module. And then Jeremy or Kristen have to go in, delete the report and like let you know and things like that. So any big reports, try to schedule for like a later time. The email address associated with the logged in staff person will generate automatically. And you can also add more email addresses by separating them with commas. So if you do have like these recurring reports and you want multiple people to get that output email and link, then you can add those addresses just by separating them with a comma. Now save and schedule your report. All right, so there were a couple questions. I want to see how to filter by the past 7 days. Can you show that? Yes, I am pretty sure I can show you when we talk about the recurring, and then we might be able to show a result of that. Is the reporting data we are retrieving in a separate store or is it live in the system? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that, but anything that you run in the reports is just a view of the data. It's not going to affect anything in the database itself. You are just like viewing that information. Okay, so we've gotten our results. So let's take a look, and I'm going to finish this real quick. So we have 2025, 25. Selected Flora here. I'm going to go next and select our folders. I'm just going to run the report now. My email isn't showing up here because I do not have an email associated with my trainer account. So I'm just going to click Save and Schedule Report. And it saved successfully. And so now it's ready to go. So regardless of the format you selected for your output, if you have entered an email into that field, you are going to be emailed a report finished notice. You can actually access the output by clicking on the link. And I'm sorry, this is based on our Outlook. So it really starts with that HTTPS Evergreen information. This is part of our like antivirus, anti-spam thing. So you might be asked to log in. So you'll just log in with your username, Evergreen username and password. And then you'll be able to see I believe it's just going to show you the HTML output for that. Back to Carl's question. So you export the data from the live system to a separate database for the reporter. How often does that run? I would probably need to ask Jeremy and or Kristen about the specifics of that, because the data only runs like if you submit a template or run a report, it only runs when that template or when that report is submitted. There are things that do run daily, and I believe if they run daily, it's based on the time that is selected. So if we go into, I'm just going to click a report real quick and show you layout and scheduling. When we schedule a report for later, it's going to give us a time. And I think it might default to maybe quarters. So we can see here it's scheduled for later. By default, it's for today, but it's going to run at 2:45. Um, so if we do that recurring report, maybe we do want something to run daily based on what it is, then we could schedule that report and it's going to run at 2:45 every day. So we, for the most part, I think define how that runs. And Carl, if I did not answer your question, please email me and I can get you a better response to that. Let's go back to the report here. Okay. So when we access our outputs folder that we saved, that we sent that to, it is separated into the pending and complete. Obviously, you're going to be emailed when the report is complete. I tend to be very impatient. And so I just sit here and maybe just click on my folder and wait for it to refresh from pending to complete. They have also added recently these refresh buttons. I still ignore those and just keep clicking on my folder and wait for it to finish. Now, if I find it's not finished within like 20, 30 seconds, then I move on and wait for the email. But for the most part, I'm very impatient and just click on that. So under the complete, once it is complete, we have our information here when it started and ended. A lot of these reports run pretty quickly. Again, unless you're depending on what you are searching for or running, it's going to take a while, especially if we're dealing with a large amount of data. But under here will be the links to the output formats that you selected. So in this one, we have HTML and CSV. So this is just an example of the output that we will see for HTML. We do have the ability to click on a column and sort by that column. You can only do one at a time, but I just learned this like 2 days ago and I thought it was really neat. So I wanted to share it with you because I think that'll be helpful, especially if you're just using the HTML to just get a quick view of the information, even just to see if you have information, because we all know that sometimes when we run a template, maybe it's older, you run it and there's no information to see. The CSV or the XML, anything that would need to download, will download automatically based on your browser's settings. So when I click on that CSV, my Google Chrome browser is just going to automatically download and then put that in my downloads folder. Regardless of what you name your report, the file is always going to say report-data. If you don't delete other downloaded report output, you'll just start seeing the parentheses with the numbers. I think the highest I've ever gotten in my downloads folder is maybe 15 or 16. I was doing a lot of testing, so it can get up there if you don't watch those. Once a report has been run, we can review our filters and even start a new one based off any edits made. So we would access this reports folder here. Again, this is where we store those reports that we have run. And then we can right click or go to actions and click on view report. So we will be able to see a non-editable version of the report we ran. This is just view report, so we can't click on anything. Everything is grayed out, but we can at least view what we used for that specific report for that specific time. Now, if we want to edit the report, we can go back into that reports folder, right click or go to actions, and then edit report. And now we can change the filters if we wanted to, especially if it's maybe like a recurring report. We can also add email addresses if we only had one. Maybe we want to add an additional branch to our filter values. We can do that. The thing to keep in mind, though, that editing a report is going to alter the report definition, um, or like what we filled out in the filters in the original report. So the editing the report really acts as a save button instead of a save as. So just keep that in mind. So like if you change the report name, and let's go in here. So I'm going to go to my annual statistics. I'm going to go here and edit report. And so I could change, let's say, I'm just going to do this real quick and don't want to really change anything else and do that. Um, the save report will just save the original. Save and schedule report will save that as like a new report, but it's also going to update that original. So if I come back here where we see that it changed the original name of the report. All right. So if you find a template that you love, let's clone it so you own a copy in case the shared template is ever deleted. Clone, clone, clone. So we find a template and we clone it by selecting it from our list and then right-clicking or going to Actions and selecting Clone Template. We're not going to focus on editing any of the filters or display or anything. We're just going to focus on like the template name. So we're going to update the template name and description. Again, it's optional. And then we want to select the folder that we are saving the template. You may wish to update this information to better reflect what you'll be looking for in your own folders. At the very least, you may want to remove the clone text that is added to the end of the template name after you have clicked that clone button. It's default, it's always going to appear there at the end of the template name when you click clone. And then click save. Since we aren't editing any columns or filters, we're just going to click save. And then we can go back to our template folder and see that that is there. So I'm going to go into the new reporter, collection data, and let's do this items deleted. So I'm just going to select, right click and clone. And I'm going to go to the end of here, delete that clone option, select my template folder. I'm not doing anything with this because I'm happy with what it shows. You can still, of course, if you don't want, if you're not editing anything, you can still view the display fields to confirm and maybe update the template description if it doesn't quite match what you were looking for. So for example, like this items deleted, it actually doesn't have the total cert count if we look at the folders. So I can remove that from the description. Okay, so I'm going to click save. And now when I go into my templates, annual statistics and circulation, we have that cloned template. We have information we need to get periodically. So why go through the fuss every time when we can make Evergreen do it for us automatically? So in order to set up a recurring report, we need to have a date filter and select this relative time value. This is going to calculate the time period to report on each time the report is run. So in this example, we had that date, that between date filter. And when we select that relative time value, it's going to tell us to enter the days. So in this case, we want to put the earliest number of days first and the latest day here. So for, I can't remember if I have an example for this or not. This would be like for a week, you would put 8 days ago and 1 day ago. So, oh, well, that's a copy of that. So this is an example of what a creation date by month equals looks like. So we have that year and month filter value. And then when we click relative time value, it's going to change to number of months ago. So if we want it to run every month, then we would enter that 1 there. But to match with that, we need to schedule the recurring report. I recommend maybe just running the report once as a standalone. And then if you find that, okay, this is what I need, then you schedule the recurring report. So we'll check mark that recurring report option, and then we will select the recurrence interval. So in this example, we would choose every 1 month. But then we want to schedule the report for later because I'm probably going to botch this. The output that we receive, so we have that 8 days to 1 day, like if we're running information for every week, will be based off of the day that the report is run. So if we run the report on March 1st and it recurs every 1 month, then it's going to recur on the 1st of April, the 1st of May, the 1st of June, and give you the report information for that previous month. And again, if it's a larger report, recommend changing that time that it runs to like a early morning or something. So let's go in here. We have set up, and in the new reporter collection data, I added these today because I personally wasn't quite sure the 8 to 1 days, the recurring report for each week. I just couldn't wrap my head around when dealing with like the monthly level, because some examples that I found had like 32 days and 1 day where you could just set up with the equal month. So I cloned these templates and changed the relative operator to equals and transform to month. So when I click on this, I'm going to do 1 month ago. I do Flora and click next, choose my report folders. And now we want to set up recurring report, and then we can select the recurrence. So we do want to do it every month, and I'm going to schedule for later on March 1st. I'm just going to have it run in the morning. So I'm going to put in my email address. And since we've save and schedule report. So if we go to output, we can see it is pending because it's not scheduled to run until March 1st. So that's going to stay there. And any recurring reports will appear here because they are recurring. So you will always have a pending report here. So once the March 1st one runs, the next scheduled runtime will be April 1st. And then as they complete, they will fall into your complete area here. So I wanted to kind of give you a idea of what we are going to be doing with all of these thousands of templates that we have. So what is our plan and how can we find what we need? So our plan is to get rid of older shared folders. We have folders from previous Evergreen Indiana coordinators when they used to be called coordinators. Or systems admin. We have a bunch of those folders, and maybe some folders from library systems that may wish to just localize and share at the like their system or branch level. So we are going to get rid of those templates and folders that are no longer useful or no longer work. We are going to focus on that EGIN admin reports account because we just want to provide one-ish folder to house all admin level templates for libraries to clone from. I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to control and share with everyone. And so we are hoping that is I think our goal. And there's always going to be ongoing clean out. Clear out all of the old Zool templates and focus on those that do work or match with the current version of the reporter and tables. There are a couple quirks that you should be aware of while using the new reporter. I already mentioned this one, that the pivoting options don't stick and therefore don't apply when output is generated. I still haven't, even after Kristen's direction, figured out how to pivot directly in Excel. So I may just use the legacy reporter to get those pivot columns. That is a me issue. And Kristen just raised her hands up in the air. I was like, what am I going to do with you? Um, if you do try to run an older template in the new reporter, maybe you clone it or maybe looking at the reports, you may notice missing information when you fill out the filters, or it may be like grayed out where you can't select it when maybe you should. This is just kind of a known quirk. We just recommend maybe cloning the template if you are able to and update that information so it appears as it should. So let's do a little recap of some of these things that we talked about. So I always recommend run a shared template first to see if it's one that you like before you clone, and then clone your favorite templates so you have your own copies, because the shared templates may be deleted at some point. So if it works for you, clone it. The report and output will be deleted from their respective folders after 30 days unless it is recurring. We have thousands of reports that run, and to be able to save all of that information in the database is impossible. So it is set to delete non-recurring report information or reports and outputs from those folders every 30 days unless it is recurring. If you want to keep your output, download it. When selecting options from a list, click Add. That is one of the things I keep running into because I select it from the list and it kind of looks like it appears. Let me see. I think I was running into this when we were looking at working on the annual report stuff. Let me see if I can. Uh, well, let's see if I can just. Well, let me say this real quick. And then lastly, the legacy reporter isn't going away just yet. I don't know when. Eventually, it's probably going to stop being supported by the software itself, but we will obviously let you know ahead of time if that is going to happen, when it is going to happen, and to make sure you all are comfortable with the new reporter, which at that point will probably won't be the new reporter. So yes, and okay. Are there any questions? What process would you like for us to follow if we have specific report questions? Help desk tickets are always welcome because those are trackable for us. And it also allows multiple eyes to see the question. And then we'll be able to grab it from our help desk inbox, whoever is able to get to it. So if it's just a general question, you could just email like myself or Courtney, and then we might tell you to submit a ticket for like Kristen or Jeremy, especially if it's like a database side of thing that we might not be able to access, like anything to do with direct like SQL processes and things like that. That is not a us thing yet. That's definitely a Kristen and Jeremy thing. And best to contact them through the help desk. And I want to find, I may have to log out. Actually, I'm going to use, no, it isn't here. Let's see. I think, what was I using? Oh, yeah. It was when we were trying to run that StatCat stuff. Okay, so we have, let's see. Nope, this isn't the right one. Let's, well, just make sure you click that add button if it pops up because I've run so many reports recently. I don't remember which one this came in, but you have like it's a drop down instead of, and you select it, it's going to appear here below it, but it's not going to actually apply as a filter until you click an add button that pops up here. Any other question? If not yet, but you have one later, you know how to contact us. If you are just diving into reports, please reach out. We are happy to help you.